And then I think we can get going. So thank you, everyone. I'll just introduce myself quickly, and then I'll have Emily and Suze introduce themselves. So I am Dr. Michelle St. Clair. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Bath, um, a senior lecturer in developmental psychology at the University of Bath, and I am the director of the E-DLD project, or the Engage with Developmental Language Disorder project. And I'll just hand over to Emily next.
Sure, thanks, Michelle. So my name's Emily Jackson. I am also a core member of Engage with DLD. I'm a speech pathologist by background, and I work here in Western Australia at Curtin University. So I do some teaching work, and I also work in research. And I'm particularly interested in DLD, of course, as well as other neurodevelopmental disorders, and particularly interested in the links with language difficulties and mental health.
And Suze?
Hi, everybody. My name's Suze Leitao. I'm an associate professor at Curtin University in the School of Allied Health. I work closely with the wonderful Emily Jackson, and I've been privileged over the last few years to be part of the core Engage DLD team working with Michelle. I'm also a speech pathologist, researcher, academic, supervisor of PhDs, and fascinated, and always have been, with all things DLD, increasingly moving towards trying to support the mental health of teenagers and young people with DLD. But I'll do anything, really. That's me.
Okay, thank you, Em and Suze. Let's just jump straight in. So I just have a few slides to sort of cover what we're doing with the Engage with DLD project. So we're entering a new phase of the project. So to give a bit of history, the Engage with Developmental Language Disorder project was launched in 2020, and it is the primary aim of it is to help facilitate research, because a lot of us who are conducting DLD research, we're finding it very, very hard to find participants. So we thought, well, let's create a research database so that we can advertise ethically approved research projects from anywhere in the world to our members. And we currently have, I think we're approaching 400 members, and we hope that that will continue to grow. Grow. And we recruit parents of children with DLD. So they fill out information about their child with DLD, as well as adults with DLD or suspected DLD, because a lot of adults have difficulties finding individuals to get a diagnosis of DLD, even if they are really confident that they have DLD. So that was what we started in 2020. And we also have collected data since 2020, and now we're entering the second phase of the Engage with DLD project, in which we're making some of the data that we have on our members available for other researchers to start to look at. So that is another way that we're sort of aiming to help facilitate research into DLD. So not only advertising people's studies that they're collecting primary data themselves, but also allowing secondary data analysis of some of our data. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we are going to be making our parent database accessible for DLD researchers to access. Now, I do have to say that it's only the parent database, because our adult database does not quite have the numbers yet. It is increasing every single month, but we don't have the numbers to make sure that our adults will be non-identifiable, which is the key consideration when making data accessible to a wider population. So it's just going to be our parent databases at this point in time. And the sign-up database has 298 parents, and the yearly survey database has 186 entries. Now, the yearly survey is a survey that is sent out to our parents and to our adults as well, 2 weeks after sign up. So 2 weeks after their sign up, they're sent a link and an email saying you're invited to take part in a yearly survey. And it's up to the individual E-DLD member whether they want to take part in the survey or not. But they are invited to take part in the survey 2 weeks after sign up, and then each year after that. And the year is counted from either when they filled in the survey or when they were invited to fill in the survey. So if they don't respond in a particular year, then they're invited the next year. and so on. And E-DLD members have given us permission to share their data in an anonymized format. So it's really important that we did ask for open access permission for this data from the very beginning of this project, because this was sort of always on the cards of ultimate aim of what we wanted to do. So why are we doing this? So I sort of already touched on this, but our aims are, the aim of this project is to really support high quality research into DLD. So we know from the work by Colin McGregor and Dorothy Bishop that DLD is disproportionately underrepresented in both grant funding as well as peer review publications. So the core aim of the E-DLD project is to help facilitate research. So we do this by advertising studies that people are conducting, and now we're doing this by providing this data so that people can start to do some research into DLD using the data that we have. And what we really, our real aim is that if we have more research, we have a better understanding of DLD, we can have enhanced treatments of DLD with the better understanding, and hopefully eventually help to improve outcomes of individuals with DLD. So this is why we're doing this. And this is expanding on our existing activities, as we've already talked about. And it's sort of creating a two-way association between E-DLD members and researchers. So we're both advertising research studies to E-DLD members, and now E-DLD members' data that they have given us are going to be available for researchers as well. So we're creating a two-way association, a sort of two-way street between our members and researchers. And if there's any questions as they go along, I think Suze and Emily are monitoring the chat. Please stop me. You can either say something, but again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we are recording this element. So if you do talk, you will be on the recording that will go up on YouTube. But do let me know if there's any questions. So we're hoping to, again, I think I'm repeating myself here. I'm preempting my slides really. So we're hoping to facilitate more research into DLD. We want more research papers, as well as the potential to have pilot analysis to support grant applications, because again, DLD is underrepresented in both grants as well as papers. So if you can use some of our data to help support a grant application into a particular area of DLD, please do so. We just need to be cited, the data itself, as well as the paper, whenever people are using the data in any way. So I think, yeah, and one of the reasons why we're doing this is we hope that it will help increase our awareness of E-DLD, the project itself, and increase motivation to help spread the word about E-DLD. So if you are recruiting a sample of individuals with DLD from a specific speech language clinic in your local area, hopefully this will help motivate you to spread the word about E-DLD, because the more members we have, the better we can facilitate DLD research, and the higher quality DLD research will become. So the more people we have on the project, the better data we will be able to release in the future, etc., etc. I hope that's making the point. Was there a question in the chat? No? I did see something. Okay, Susan's just monitoring the chat.
That was me saying I was monitoring the chat, Michelle.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
So we will be sharing the parent and child anonymized databases, and this is data from October 2020 to April 2024. And if you wonder why it's April 2024, it has taken us, now we should make the proviso that E-DLD is an unfunded project. We are all doing this in our spare time when we have time to work on this. So it has taken us from April 2024 to October to get the data ready to be released more widely. So we have anonymized things in quite a substantial way, which we'll talk about in a bit. So we're going to have 198 parents who have signed up to the database and given us some information that could be used for research as part of their sign up. We also have a yearly survey database, which encompasses 137 parents who have completed at least one survey. And there is dwindling amounts of parents who have completed 2 surveys, 3 surveys, and 4 surveys. So that's why there's 186 entries into the yearly survey database from 137 parents. And again, in future releases, we'll have more data at that second and third time wave and the fourth and soon to be fifth. Actually starting probably in a few weeks' time, we'll start getting our fifth wave from some very keen parents. So let's talk about what kind of data we will be sharing. So the sign-up database will have domains that don't really change across time. So we will have age, we'll have exact age for the child, and we'll have an age band for the parent. So the age band for the parent is a wider age bracket to indicate the approximate age of the parent. Ethnicity for both the parents and children. Residency, whether they're in the UK and broad area of the UK. So we have England and Scotland, Wales, which we'll talk about, Scotland, Wales combined, I should say, which we'll talk about in a minute, or continent of residence if they're not a UK resident. So about 70% of our sample is UK residents. The others, you'll get a continent of residence. So North America, South America, Asia, Australia, New Zealand are combined, etc. And Africa, of course. I shouldn't forget Africa. We have bilingual status for both the parent and the child, as well as if there's any additional languages spoken in the household that isn't represented by the parent's bilingualism. So it could be the other parent speaks Italian and the parent who's signing up only speaks English, for instance. So we have that measure. So we have a good measure of what kind of languages are being spoken in the house. We have information on whether there are siblings in the household. Now we hold more information about the siblings than we're releasing, but we have information on whether they're siblings, whether they're half full or step siblings. And we have information on the relationship between the respondent and the child. So is it a biological mother? Is it adoptive parents, etc.? And then diagnostic label category. So we've had a free text response where people have given us diagnostic terms and we have categorized them into distinct labels. So DLD is the highest DLD equivalent. So that would be SLI and expressive receptive language impairment, etc. And then language disorder associated with another condition, which is a smaller category, as well as I think that's about it for that. And then we have a range of language difficulties that are either that's a tick box, so the parents tick if their child has expressive language difficulties, receptive language difficulties, pragmatic language difficulties, etc. And there's also a tick box for the co-occurring conditions. So whether they have anxiety, depression, ADHD, etc. And I should have a proviso in here that there is an autism co-occurring condition as well, which if they have reported a primary language diagnosis, but they have also ticked that the child has autism, we have kept them in the database. If people are saying that the primary diagnosis is autism, they are sent an email, a very kind email saying, your child has autism. These are the research databases that are more appropriate for them, and they are not included in the data or in the research emails that we send out. But because there's so much variability in how professionals diagnose DLD and autism, and there is overlap in the actual diagnostic community and competing diagnosis, we don't exclude based on the co-occurring condition of autism. We have school support details, including some qualitative comments on how school support is being met by the parents and by the schools, if it's being met or if it's not being met. And for UK residents only, we have a sort of independent socioeconomic status measure of an indices of multiple deprivation based on the postcode that is provided by the respondents, by the parents. So this is sort of an area-wide socioeconomic status, and that is indices of multiple deprivation. And for England, we also have indices of multiple deprivation affecting children. And we have and then we have that for our Welsh and our Scottish participants as well. So that is the database for the sign-up database. And for the yearly survey database, again, we have 137 parents, but 186 entries. The children are between the ages of 3 and 15. And the consistent domains that are measured in this survey are gender. We included gender in both the sign-up as well as the yearly survey database because that can shift across time. SDQ, and residency information. So where they're living, have they changed countries? Have they moved to different places? So that can shift as well. Monthly income, which isn't measured at sign up, but we do measure on the yearly survey, SLT provision, and IMD data for UK residents too. So we'll be able to track shifts in individual families moving across different areas and shifts in potential socioeconomic status for our respondents. And then for the age 3 to 7 data, we have a measure of parent-child activities and social activities as well. So a measure of how the parents and children are interacting and at what frequency and different social activities they're getting their kids involved with. For the children, the youngest children, just 3 to 4, we have the general development questionnaire, which is coming along. So we're getting more and more younger participants. So that is probably the least developed age band for the yearly survey, but we do have some data and it is increasing. And then we have from 8 to 15, we have social activities only. So we cut out the parent-child activities for the older children. And 3 to 13, we have the sleep habits questionnaire. So we have a questionnaire related to children's sleep habits. And from age 5 to 15, we have a school progress or school support information. So this is a lot of qualitative information. We have a lot of questions about specific attainments for the different countries in the UK, which we haven't included in the accessible database just because there's so little information on that. But the overall school progress and how the schools are supporting children with DLD is present from children 5 to 15. So we do have some variables that are more limited. So as we discussed earlier, we have age bands for the parents instead of, so you can see that here on the side, instead of the exact age of the parents. And this is just because, for instance, some parents who are maybe a bit older, they might be grandparents looking after a child with DLD instead of the parents for any number of reasons. But that age might, along with the child's age, and the child's diagnosis and potentially their ethnicity and where they live in the UK, for instance, could be quite specific for a specific child. So that is something that we have gone through the data with a fine-tooth comb. It's one of the reasons why it's taken us so long in this first time of getting the data out there for other people to use to actually figure out what needs to be combined, what data needs to be combined, and what data we can keep separate. So we do have exact ages for the children, but we do not have exact ages for the caregivers for this reason. And other variables are also combined. So we have a combined Scotland and Wales just because we weren't very happy with the amount of individual, I think it was the amount of people that were in Wales was a bit lower than we wanted. So we have combined the Scotland and Wales variables. And also one other thing that we have not done, which is perhaps less than ideal, but is necessary for protecting our individual's identity, is we have not included the year of sign up. So you will see from some of the qualitative comments that some comments are talking about the effect of the pandemic because we started in 2020 and we're running until 2024. But that is just because we wanted to hide, we're giving the exact age of the children because we think that's a really important demographic for understanding the data, but we've removed the year of sign up so that you can't really identify when a child would have been 8 years old in the last 4 years, for instance. So that's one of the ways that we're anonymizing the data so that we can release it. Oops, let's move on. So we have a lot of qualitative comments that we have worked incredibly hard at making sure we can release because we feel like there is so much rich information here. So we have retained most of the qualitative comments that we have because this is just such important information. It's a voice of parents directly talking about their children. Now you can see some of this here and you can see very clearly that we have gone to a lot of length to to anonymize it. So any names that were in these qualitative comments are now replaced as pronouns. I haven't got an example here, but any school names have been replaced with brackets and anonymized school. So all contact comments have been anonymized, and we have read and reread and reread and reread to ensure all identifiable information has been removed, and we are as confident as we can possibly be that these qualitative comments cannot identify individual children and parents. But these are really important, I think, for people to be able to look at and potentially do research with. Oops. Why is it's going? Okay. So now we're getting to the end of this. So we've sort of discussed the data that we have. And now let's discuss how people can access the data. So I have deposited the data in the University of Bath data repository. I can't remember the exact name of it. I think it's Data Archive. And I think what's going to happen is that if you are affiliated with a research institution, for example, a university, that is the first step of being able to access the data. We would like you to check pre-registered studies, and we will keep a list of either submitted papers that have used E-DLD data or pre-registered studies on our website. It will take us a few weeks to get that up and running, but we will do that. And if you do pre-register a study that's using E-DLD data, please send a pre-registration link to E-DLD at Bath so that we can include it on our list on our website. And then please state your research question clearly, and then you can apply for access to the database. So it would be good if you have a sort of research question that is clear and concise, and then you can apply for access. And again, we will be working in the next week or so to create a document explaining what data is available at different ages with the E-DLD database. And then it will be then you'll be able to download that information to think about what research questions you would like to have. And then you have to apply for access to the database. It will go through the UK University of Bath Data Archive, the research team here in Bath. And then we will, I think what's going to happen is that the E-DLD team will be able to look for make sure there's no overlap with the existing analysis and ensure that the E-DLD is appropriate for the research question. Because if you were asking, for instance, the association between the or just some if you're asking, for instance, a question about how many students are receiving GCSEs, the information isn't in our database simply because we don't have enough information on GCSE data to include that. So we'll be able to give you feedback on if you just won't be able to answer the question using the E-DLD data. And this will also help us track E-DLD's impacts. So as anyone who is especially in a UK institution knows, research impact is important. So we need to do a bit better at tracking the impact of what we're doing with the Engage with ELD project. So this will help us sort of track the impact by keeping track of who is applying for access. We will be updating the accessible databases on a regular basis. I'm not sure about the time frame for that, so we will come up with a sort of time frame at a later date with the entire E-DLD core team. And I just hope that everyone will help spread the word about Engage with DLD, because although we think that we're out there and that everyone knows about us, we keep coming across individuals within the DLD world who have had no idea what we're doing and have heard about us for the first time recently, and that happens all the time with us. So I think that's it. That's all of my questions. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we can take questions from everyone. Oh, that's stopping the sharing, not the recording. Okay.